Alright, and welcome back. This is episode number 5. And what we're going to be doing in this episode is going to spend a majority of the time doing some land clearing around the colony, just to improve airflow and facilitate future projects. So what we're looking at in here is the metal refiner, which takes your raw copper ore and turns it into pure copper for your more advanced upgrade items. Now, one thing about that unit is it intakes water and then outputs it at a significantly higher temperature, so usually about 15 to 20 degrees higher. So if you're inputting, say, 25 degree water like in our main water supply, that's going to come out over 40 degrees, which will probably kill any plant that you pump it into. So you need to figure out a way to deal with it. Also, just picking up the ranching research there. Not going to use that for a little while. Don't have an effective rancher at this point, but we have a bit of options in the tech tree at the moment. There's no real dire must-haves, so we'll start picking up the fluff. So we've just dismantled one of the electrolyzers there. Having two of them in the same spot doesn't really work so well. They do compete for air pressure, so ideally what we'd like to do is have one on each side of the colony. So we've got this one here on the far right. We'll look to put one on the far left near the metal refiner. Additionally, we're just going to go digging for more gristle blossom seeds to get them incorporated in our farm. Also, just putting this door here. That door is going to lead to our first foray into the outside caustic biome there, outside of our starting area. That won't be happening in this episode, but it's definitely something planned for the future. Otherwise, just looking to update the base a bit so we're not living half in a cave wall here. Just really encase everything in proper constructed walls. Also digging out on both sides of the ladder there just to get a clear airflow up and down for that electrolyzer once that's connected. That way the oxygen and the hydrogen can all travel to the top of the colony, where we can just burn it off. Nisbet's earned herself a promotion to the next level miner. What that'll enable her to do is dig through some of the more tougher minerals, such as abysallite, seen there on the left side of the screen, which is that crystalline purple formation. Very tough, divides out the biomes, but it has some very, very useful properties, which we'll go into more later. Setting up our filter there to filter out hydrogen, and then hopefully that should get the system rolling. Start pumping that hydrogen down into our hydrogen generator. I've noticed a stray seed there under the ground, so we'll just delete that square. We'll put it back later after somebody gets the seed out. So here we are looking to take on our 8th duplicate. Now this one, what we probably do is take a second digger, so a miner. We've got Rowan there on the right with the +3 to digging, and also dig as an interest. Makes him a great miner. Also seems to be quite the qualified general engineer. So what we'll do is we'll have a look and see if we can reassign Catalina to something else. No, she's quite terrible at everything else. So we'll have to leave her as the general engineer and Just put Rowan in as the miner there. He's still pretty good at it. Always worth having a look to see if you can repurpose some of your dupes around. So we're just going to start to dig out some of this abyssalite. We're going to need a lot of this stuff. So one of the key usages of abyssalite is for liquid pipes. Now it is a near perfect universal insulator. The temperature of the item in the pipe will stay that temperature almost the whole way through. Also does not bleed temperature out into the outside world, so if you were to say pump 100 degree or 90 degree water through sandstone piping, that would heat your base up quite quickly just through to its radiating effect. Would not be the case with abyssalite pipes. You can pump 80-90 degree petroleum, oil, water, what have you, through, and it does not leach the heat out. Makes it very useful for transferring those hot substances without cooking your base. And that will come into play shortly with our metal refiner, as that does output that quite hot water. We want to minimize the heat that bleeds off that as much as possible. Just going to queue up the ventilation research. What we'll be looking to do with that is look to implement some automation systems into the colony. And also just updating some priorities as well. There's Ari, our narcoleptic farmer, having a sleep in the middle of the walkway where he was standing. So what I'm trying to do here is angle the cave wall in sort of a diagonal leading up to that pump there, which will funnel that hydrogen up to the pump. So yeah, just having a look at our hydrogen system there, you can see that the pink gas is the hydrogen, is being run off down to our gas generator, and gas generator is running at full power there, while the oxygen is just being freshly pumped out into our living space. As indicated by, you can see the quite blue oxygen. That means it's quite well pressurized, good oxygen count there. Generally when you've got that blueness in the air, that's a sign that all systems are good. Just dropping our grooming station for when we begin ranching our hatches later. And just connecting up this piece of land. Need to get the metal, and because all of this is classed as unreachable, I can't use it to queue anything. The duplicants just pretend it's not there if it's unreachable. As far as they're concerned, it doesn't exist if it's not reachable, which makes sense in a way. So again, just trying to create that funneling effect by digging out everything on the right side of this pump to allow that hydrogen to come through. So what we're looking to do here is just get the polluted water pumped to those 3 hydroponic farm bays on the top left side of the screen there. So what we'll be putting in there is some reeds. Now they're fed with the polluted water and they're used to craft your clothing, which at this point not that useful, but once you start exploring into the other biomes, they are quite hot and cold out there, need some protective clothing, otherwise your duplicants do not last very long at all. So just starting our abysallite pipes here. So what we're looking to do with that 40+ degree water that's coming out of our refinery is actually run it into the electrolyzer, which will then burn it off into oxygen and hydrogen rather than putting it back into the water supply and bringing up the temperature of the water supply. All burnt off hot water always comes out at the same temperature, around 30-40 degrees. It's the oxygen from the water. So it makes sense to burn off as much of the hot water rather than try to recycle it. Just get rid of it, destroy that extra heat. You don't need to deal with it. Just going to deconstruct this algae deoxidizer here. It's so close to the electrolyzer in the bottom right of screen that they're competing for air pressure. It's not really doing much at this point. It's just wasting electricity and resources like algae, so just get rid of it. Just going to put down some more ranching items. So that's the drop-off point. When you capture them, these are the feeders. You load them up with food and the hatches just come over and food falls out for them. Can't begin ranching yet until we've got a qualified rancher who can't be promoted until they're a first level farmer as well. So Ari, our narcoleptic farmer, will be the rancher. We just need to get him to the high enough level. So I've just noticed there's chlorine leaking out into my colony. Not ideal. So, and I've discovered where. I've just drilled open a bit of the floor there to install some pipes and haven't sealed that one up quick enough. Chlorine gas is coming out. Just got that blocked up now. Chlorine's quite a useless gas. Used almost exclusively for just disinfecting, getting rid of germs. Otherwise it just floats around the bottom of your colony, being irritating. Just going to look to expand out the living quarters. Initially I said I was going to stop at 8 duplicants. Might look at 10 or even 12 at this point before we stop. There's a couple more roles there that should ideally be filled, like a gopher. Just digging this out so they can access the pipes there from the bottom during construction. Rather than have them going through the polluted water source, we'll hopefully get them to build from the bottom. Just looking at the jobs. I'm going to resist the urge to promote anyone at the moment. They'll start demanding better food if you do that. At this point they're all pretty content with their mealwood. Going to queue up another upgrade here. We'll get the clothing loom going, although we'll barely use it. May not even use it at all. It's a prerequisite to other more useful parts. So So just connecting our metal refinery up with some water. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to create a liquid vent here to run off the excess hot water out of that metal refinery. We'll burn off what we can with the electrolyzer, but that is quite a slow process. So we'll dump any excess back into that northern water reservoir there. Now that water's used exclusively for the research terminal, the supercomputer, and for cooking with. Neither of those things are temperature sensitive, so it doesn't really matter how hot that water is. Just doing a fairly good job here of clearing out all the land. Still haven't opened up that side yet, that'll happen shortly. Just looking to ran out this mess hole in a way that doesn't completely trigger my OCD. Again, just getting rid of all this dirt. It's all well and good to have all these airflow vents put in, but if the oxygen can't get through them, or they're blocked through terrain, they're useless. Really need to get them cutting into that abysallite there, so I'm going to up the priority on that ladder just so they can get to it. Mining abysallite takes a long time, so they need to get to work on that one. Just going to add in a third lavatory here, ever expanding colony. Not that I expect 3 duplicates to all need to run to the bathroom at the same time, but it's good to just clear that excess out in the morning as all of them wake up and need to use that bathroom. So there's our research finishing on the clothing loom. Actually just going to hold off research for a little bit. We've got a lot of constructions going. Just repurpose Max to do other building jobs. Okay, excellent. We've got some more abysallite to use. So we'll just go through here, jump across with a bridge, and then out the exit pipe. So we'll just have a quick look at duplicates here. Bubbles isn't bad. Stinky's primarily a farmer, so he's not really useful. What we'll do is we'll take Bubbles. And then assign her as a gopher. Now what the gophers specialise in is running goods supply errands around the colony. So being a gopher comes with the benefit of increased holding capacity. Can hold an extra 200 or 400 kilos worth of whatever goods in dirt, copper. Just completing out the reed farm there. Reeds are great for clothing, and they're also just really handy for running off that excess polluted water. They chew through about 160 litres worth of kilograms of polluted water per cycle, per reed. So it's nearly 500 kilograms worth of polluted water being repurposed there in every cycle. It's just a great way to keep that down so that void doesn't fill up. Just having a quick look around, everything that's going on. Everyone seems quite happy. Stress and disease are under control. And Bubbles is taking the refiner to its first test drive, which will be interesting because there's no outlet pipe constructed on it for that heated coolant. Jumped the gun a bit there, but that's okay. So we'll just drop an atmosphere sensor up here. Now what you can do is have the pump running 24/7 like we had, and it's passing through both oxygen and hydrogen. Now what we'll do with the atmosphere sensor is actually set it to a certain threshold, so the pump won't work or won't activate unless there was, say, 500 grams per square of gas. What this will do is mean the pump is actually inactive 80% of the time, and then once enough hydrogen builds up in the atmosphere, it'll flick on, start pumping all that hydrogen out. Once it falls back below that pressure, it'll shut off again. So you'll still accomplish the same goal of clearing that hydrogen, but using, say, 80% less power. Really looking to get these reeds up and irrigated by the end of the episode, and these abyssalite pipes completed as well. So we are entering into the end of cycle 25 here, bringing us to the end of the episode. And there we go, that polluted water's just starting to filter in now into the reeds. Okay, and there goes that hot water running off into that northern water supply. We haven't quite completed the water pipes leading to the electrolyzer to start burning it off, but at least we can just start dumping it out. Okay, now the electrolyzer should be getting water fed as well. There it goes. Doesn't take long for that pipe to build up. And it takes quite a bit of time for that electrolyzer to clear it all, due to the gas pressure. It's not running full time. But burning something's better than nothing. Just going to expand the amount of storage capacitors we've got there. Start cleaning up all this extra dirt and sandstone we've got lying around. Other than it being nice to just have a central location for them to pick everything up, stuff also causes penalties for decor. And it gives them something to do when I haven't got anything queued, which is rare. I think it's been a bit of a running theme through this playthrough. We've generally queued up too much, not too much downtime for them to sit around and clean. This is probably the first point where we actually have had a little bit of time for them to just run around and clean things up. So just dropping a power station here. Now what this building does is it meets the conditions of turning this into a proper power room, engine room, and also allows our electrical engineer, who is 96% of the way to becoming electrical engineer, just a general engineer there, Catalina. It'll allow her to produce microchips, which will then allow her to give the generators the NG tune-up, which gives them a 25% boost in their output to no extra use of resources, no extra creation of, say, carbon dioxide. It's just a straight-up upgrade. Excellent, and that's the end of this episode. So what we'll do is we'll leave it there, and on the next episode we'll look at moving into the caustic biome to the left of our colony. Our colony's definitely started to take shape in this episode. Not living in a cave anymore. It's starting to look a little bit civilized. There we go, just activating that automation sensor.